Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for Politics Now. I'm your host, Justin Brown, and this is a news show where we're going to be covering all things politics. And it is 2026, so we are going to be covering various political campaigns and races, starting at the local level, like city council and the race for mayor, up to state level, like state representative and state senator, and the race for governor, and then, of course, at the federal level as well. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to two candidates that are running for the U.S. Senate seat in Georgia. The incumbent is Democrat Jon Ossoff. We're going to be starting with two Republican candidates, Derek Dooley and Representative Buddy Carter. I was able to sit down with Representative Carter and ask him about why he's choosing to not seek re-election for his current House seat and run for the U.S. Senate seat. So take a listen to my conversation with Representative Buddy Carter. You currently represent Georgia's 1st congressional district, so why leave this position that you've been in for 11 years or so? Why leave this position now and over to the Senate?
Well, the reason why is because Georgians need someone in the United States Senate who is going to support President Trump and his America First policies. Why am I that person? Because I've been doing it. I did it through his first term. I've done it through the first year of his second term. I'll continue to do it in the Senate. Jon Ossoff does not represent the values of the state of Georgia. Jon Ossoff is the one who voted against the Working Families Tax Cut Act that saved Georgians $5,000 a year in taxes. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, decreased tax on Social Security, increased child care tax credit. Jon Ossoff voted against that. Jon Ossoff is the one who voted 14 times back in November to keep the government closed, using our CHIP and our WIC beneficiaries as leverage in order to try to get health care coverage for illegal immigrants. Jon Ossoff is the one who voted against prohibiting biological males in women's sports. And look, I've got 6 granddaughters. I do not want a biological male in their locker room. I don't want a biological male in their bathroom. As a grandfather, that's very important to me. Jon Ossoff does not represent the values of the state of Georgia. Look at what's going on now with ICE. Jon Ossoff is not supporting ICE. Our public safety officials, our police officers who we should be supporting in this country, Jon Ossoff is not doing that.
The Republican Party is an extremely crowded, the Republican race is an extremely crowded field. There are currently 8 candidates in this race that are all Republicans. What sets you apart from the other 7? Why should Georgians choose you to be the nominee in this race?
Well, because as I stated earlier, I've been doing this. I've been supporting President Trump. I've been supporting his America First policies. Look, I've had a great career. I was a mayor. I was in the state legislature. I've served in Congress. I know what I'm doing. I've had the experience. All along the line, I've been successful in representing my constituents, and I'll continue to represent the people of Georgia in the United States Senate once we get over there and help President Trump. Georgians deserve someone in the United States Senate who's going to support President Trump and his America First policies.
Getting to some of the issues that are labeled on your website. Number one is jobs in the economy. You say that one of your top priorities in Congress has been improving our nation's economy and getting Georgians back to work. And you said that you've been a small business owner for 30 years, over 30 years now. So the question is, what would you do in the Senate to have the back of Georgia small businesses?
Well, professionally, I'm a pharmacist. I did own 3 drugstores and owned another business that serviced nursing homes and personal care homes. I was very successful and grew that business. I opened my business on November 21st, 1988, grew it into 3 pharmacies, as I said, plus the other business. Healthcare has been a focus of mine, and I want to concentrate, as I have been, on healthcare costs. We can only do that through more competition, through more transparency. That's what we need. We need to bring healthcare costs down here in America. We need to make Americans healthy again.
On agriculture, this is one of Georgia's largest industries, if not the largest. You represent an area yourself where agriculture is a big industry, and it is in Southwest Georgia as well. So, with fighting for Georgia farmers, I've covered stories on this myself, where farmers have verbally told me that they feel oftentimes that they're left out and forgotten when they are some of the most important employees in the state, as they, grow crops and sell them and send them all over the country and all over our state. How would you have the back of Georgia farmers?
Well, first of all, I've had the honor and privilege of representing a large portion of the agriculture community in the state of Georgia, both when I was in the state legislature and especially when I was in Congress. I voted against President Trump twice. One of those times was to get funding for our blueberry farmers when they had a late freeze, and I had to. I could not support an appropriations bill because the funding was not in there, and they needed that. And I stood up and I made sure that happened, and I did make it happen. I've always supported the farmers. Will continue to support the farmers. Look, the farmers and American farmers feed the world. We understand that. It is the number one industry in the state of Georgia. We have to continue to support them.
Why is Georgia better off with you as their senator?
Well, I believe that I represent Georgia values. John Ossoff does not represent Georgia values. I do represent Georgia values. This is my home. The coast is my home. It's where I've lived all my life, where I intend to live the rest of my life. As I was telling you earlier, it's an honor and a privilege to serve in Congress, but it's a special honor when you represent the area that you grew up in, that you've lived in all your life and intend to live in the rest of your life. I take this very seriously. I work very hard at it. The shine hasn't worn off for me in Washington, D.C. I'm still excited every time I go back up there. It is an honor to serve up there. It would be an honor to serve as a United States Senator from Georgia and represent Georgia values, making sure that we're going to make us more prosperous, making sure we're going to make us safer, and making sure that we're going to keep biological males out of my granddaughter's locker room.
All righty. Well, thank you again very much for your time.
You.
Next, I was able to speak to Mr. Derek Dooley. Mr. Dooley is a man from outside the political sphere. He was a lawyer, then a football coach, and now wants to take a step into politics, running for U.S. Senate. Take a listen to my conversation with Mr. Dooley. The DC politics can be very messy. I've heard it explained as a melting pot of everyone chasing agendas. So why take that step into running for a U.S. Senate position?
Man, you just hit one of the key reasons there. But it starts with, we just need new leadership in D.C. that represents what the Georgia people want. You know, somebody with some common sense, somebody with some Georgia values, but more importantly, they're going up there for the right reasons. And you mentioned a lot of the agendas, as you say. It's one of the things that frustrated me watching our politics digress, whether it's the careerism where people are staying up there too long, or whether it's some of the corruption that we're all seeing. They're using their position to make money. And certainly the inaction, the government shutdowns. It just feels like too many people in D.C. Are up there more concerned about their next election, more concerned about being a celebrity on social media than they are serving the people that elected them. And that's going to be a big piece for me to try to help change that narrative and try to get D.C. working better for our people.
You make an effort to say that you are not part of the political establishment. Why is it important to make it known that you are not part of the political establishment, especially when nowadays it almost seems like you have to be in the establishment to get anything done in Washington?
Well, I think about when I was young, there was a great debate when Ross Perot was running as an independent, and they said, "You have no political experience. You know, what makes you think you can do a good job?" And he said, "I'm glad I don't have that experience. I got life experience." And so I am proud that I'm not part of the political establishment, and I don't think that that's the way to achieve results, being a part of the establishment. Let me just give you the best example out there. Our president, Donald Trump, who is an outsider, and whether you agree with his policies or not, whether you like him or not, there's one thing that's unmistakable. He's delivered more results in less time than any other president in our lifetime. And the reason is because he does not accept business as usual in D.C. I'm sure they tell him, well, that's not how we do things. Well, you can't do that. But you know what? He comes from a business world where it's outcome oriented, just like most Americans. It's outcome oriented. And if you have obstacles, you got to figure out a different path to ultimately get the result done. And that's what we're missing in D.C. I think we need more outsiders in the Senate who are there to find solutions to help our people.
What are some of the issues that are facing Georgia families today? And, what are Georgians asking for?
Yeah, well, let's start with the big one. It's affordability, right? And it's almost laughable to me. A month ago, everybody was shocked that, hey, this affordability might be an issue in the election. To me, it's an issue every year. I mean, I'm just like everybody else. I'm wondering why grocery prices are high. I'm wondering why our insurance premiums are so high. And as you dig deeper, what you realize is this president was left with one of the biggest messes in my lifetime from an economy standpoint. I mean, a 40-year high inflation from pumping trillions of dollars into the economy. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But that is the number one issue because that's what people care about. They all want to be safe, and they all want to be able to get an education and develop skills so they can have a job where they can afford to raise a family and a home. And that's what matters most. Too many times D.C. takes their eye off the ball and they lose what's important. This should never not be an issue.
How do you plan to support the Georgia farmers? I've spoken to a lot of them saying that they feel that they are the group that's left out and the group that's forgotten about, but they are such an important piece to Georgia being successful and remaining successful.
Yes, and it's a massive piece for our state, and they've had a tough time. And I've actually spent a lot of time really getting educated, driving all through South Georgia, talking to farmers. In fact, I had a great meeting a couple of weeks ago with Tyler Harper, who does a phenomenal job with our state, learning and getting educated on how can the federal government help, because you have to, I mean, that's our number one industry in this state. And as a U.S. Senator, you have a responsibility to serve that industry the right way. I think the Trump administration has made some great steps for our farmers in a lot of different ways as it relates to helping them through this tough time in the H-2A program. But we all have a long way to go. And so it'll be a real important piece for me to protect our industry. And it's also a national security issue, Justin. I mean, we need to make sure we can feed our people. We don't want to be undercut by all these countries coming in, selling cheap food, and we say, well, that's the path forward. And then all of a sudden we look up one day and we can't feed our own people.
What sets you apart from all your competitors, and why should you be the Republican nominee?
Well, because I'm not a part of the political establishment, so let's start there. I'm someone from the outside who's made a career of not about me, about serving others. And it's something that I want to do is go up to D.C. for the right reasons. I'm not going up there to try to accrue power. I'm not going up there for this 30, 40-year career. I'm not going up there to get rich. I'm going up there because this state deserves better leadership that's going to put them first. And that's our motto, put Georgia first.
Well, we certainly thank Representative Carter and Mr. Dooley for coming in to have a conversation with us about their campaign. And these are only two of the candidates that are running for Georgia's U.S. Senate seat. There are 8 total Republicans, 1 Democrat, and 1 independent. And we have sent invitations to all candidates if they would like to come in and have a conversation with us about their campaign. And if you would like to be featured on the show, please reach out to me at justin.brown@wtvm.com. And be sure to tune in every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time for Politics Now. Good night.